Hello, everyone. I hope you're all well. And we're going to continue with the topic European Day of Languages, which was a few weeks ago. So, hello, Alan.
Good morning, Letty, Miss Letty. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Lovely to see you all. Hi, Annie. How's it going down there?
Hello, Miss Letty. Hello, everyone. It's good here. Thank you for having me.
And hi, Nieves.
Hello, Miss Letty. How are you guys?
We're all fine because it's our Sunday meeting and that gives us a bit of buzz for the day. Right, Nieves, can you read the title and what it says underneath, please?
Okay, European Day of Languages. What is the European Day of Languages? A day to encourage language learning across Europe.
So that's what we said a few weeks ago. And we're just refreshing our viewers' memory. Right then, Annie, would you be so kind as to read this nice and slowly so the viewers will understand, because it's quite complicated in parts, okay?
Okay. All right. European Day of Languages. Speaking more than 2 languages is possible. Since Europe has a big diversity of cultures and a wide variety of spoken languages, the chance to learn a foreign new language is closer. In intercultural society, is absolutely necessary to communicate in more than a language. It is not a recommendation, it is an obligation nowadays. Maybe in the past, since people didn't travel or move, it wasn't necessary to know other languages, but nowadays, people who don't know another languages are condemned to live the same way forever. It's such an interesting experience to travel abroad, to know how to communicate, to express yourself in order to make you understood and understand the others.
Right. I agree with this completely. I remember years ago, Alan, I was in the Costa del Sol in Spain, and the British people used to arrive and they used to expect the waiters and everybody in the hotel to speak English.
No.
I personally felt very embarrassed. Not that my Spanish was fantastic then, but I remember they would just start speaking in English, didn't try to order anything in Spanish, and I was quite uncomfortable with this situation. There are some nationalities or some countries where they don't think about learning another language and they expect other people to do, or they feel ridiculous if they have to speak a second language. But we should encourage more people to speak more languages. Right then, so we're going to start with a few questions after that nice reading by Annie. And anyone can answer these questions. So, Alan, have you ever met someone who spoke only a different language to you? If so, what happened and how did you feel? So, for example, did you meet someone who didn't speak English and you didn't speak Spanish at that time? Have you ever had this experience?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, my first day in Spain, I was completely lost. I mean, I didn't know any Spanish at all. And this person didn't know any English. So a lot of hand gestures were brought in, but it is never quite the same, really. And I was really embarrassed. And I thought, this is ridiculous. I've really got to get a grip of Espanol, which I have done. I mean, I have made a concerted effort in the first couple of years. I've fallen by the wayside a little bit now, but at least I do know enough to get by and I can make myself understood. So I do know the value. I just wish I knew more, but there we are.
I think also it could be the case that if you were surrounded by other British people where you are living, you don't have the need.
No, you don't make the effort. No,
that's
absolutely,
it.
Yes.
So
see, I was in the bank yesterday, and actually the bank manager himself was serving because they've cut down the number of staff, and he's now in the hot seat serving. And I just asked a simple question that I wanted a duplicate copy of a transfer. And the first thing I said, habla inglés. He said, no. And that was quite, and I knew there was no point in taking it any further. He was determined he was not going to attempt to speak any English at all. And so he pointed across to another counter and more or less indicated that I need to speak to the lady at another desk who is fluent in English. And that's what I ended up doing.
So maybe it would be like a motivation for you to learn a few things,
Absolutely.
to go back to the same desk and show him that you knew something. So it can be a bit embarrassing or uncomfortable if we can't use a language and only use body language.
Yes.
How about you, Annie? Have you had this situation by any chance?
Yes, I had been find this kind of experience at the moment, but yeah, I'm just try to understand by their gesture, because I didn't know what they trying to say to me. So that is why it comes up confusing. Only where to go. I don't know. It's just like really confusing because we don't know each other, our language, you know. So and then just by pointing out of what they want to say.
So I think it's okay for a short time and something very precise. But if it had to go on for longer, something more serious, it would be very uncomfortable. And how about you, Nieves?
Well, it happened to me when I went to live in England. The first time I didn't speak English at all. Nothing, not even sorry or excuse me, nothing at all. So I was so embarrassed. I didn't want to go even out, not even for a shopping or anything, because I feel so bad. When I was trying to talk to people, I didn't know what to say, or I didn't understand anything that they talked to me. So I remember one day I cut my finger. It was a really bad cut, and it was blood and everywhere. It was deep. I couldn't stop the bleeding, and I didn't went to the doctor. I didn't want to go to the doctor because I was so embarrassed that I didn't know what to say or how to explain what happened. So I had to put a bandage on my finger and trust to press the gun to stop the bleeding. I was it was hurt to me a lot, and I didn't have any painkillers, so I had to try to comfort myself, talking to myself. Oh, it's going to go away. The pain is going to go away. Don't worry. I was crying all day, and well, I just tried to comfort myself, talking to me in Spanish, but I definitely, if it happened to me again, I could go to the doctor and try to do some mimic or something, because I had the scar on my finger now.
You have the scar there,
Yeah,
and it reminds you of this situation, no?
Yeah.
Right. I'm trying to think back. When I first arrived in Spain, I didn't speak a word of Spanish either, because the family I was going to work for spoke English, and that was the deal, that I only spoke English. And I remember going to the shops and pointing and smiling to get some deodorant or some shampoo or something like that. And if I met anybody, my eyes would go down and I would try not make eye contact with people. So I didn't have to speak to anybody. So you can have lots of emotions, no? Frightened, embarrassed, insecure. So you can have a lot of emotional moments, no? If you can't speak the language. Right, Alan, can you read the next question?
Number 7. Someone said to have another language is to have a second soul. Learning a language leads to new connections, therefore inspiring people, seeing the world through different eyes, exploring different ideas and cultures to the point that you may feel you do indeed have a second soul.
Right. How do you feel about this? Have you got an opinion about this?
Well, obviously, when for the little bit that I have learned, and if I have made myself understood, I really feel giving myself a pat on the back. I'm really happy to think, wow, I've managed to communicate with this Spanish person, and I've made myself understood. So it was a wonderful feeling, and I need that. I wish I could have that all the time, really. So, and I'm very interested in the culture here, of course. And I've learned a lot, and I have to accept their way of life and living. So I don't criticize or don't expect them to bow to my way of thinking or whatever. So yes, I have an open mind when I came here, and I'm trying to fit in with the language and their culture.
Right. So from what you were saying, it sounds like it has enriched you as a person to know
Absolutely.
2 languages
Yes,
and mix with different people. I
absolutely.
think you could say that. And how about you, Annie? Have you got an opinion about this?
To have another language, to have a second soul. Yes, I do agree with this. Because, for example, I cannot what is it? For example, in English is so much easier to understand by me instead in my mother tongue. So, for example, when in English, when I say like, don't take anything for granted, that easy to understand in English the soul of what does it mean. But when I translate into my own mother tongue, I have to paraphrasing, and I get them a few examples to get to know the gist of the meaning. What does it mean for granted? It is not easy to understand for some people here in my country. It is not easy to understand this. And also, it is also depends on the intonation. When native speakers say that, oh, that's fine, but actually it's not fine, And then when they kind of, oh, it's okay, no, fine, it's fine, But it is kind of angry, And when convey something, addressing something, but also it is we can recognize the meaning whether it is with a positive vibes or negative ones. Also, it depends on the intonation and the way they addressing that statement. So it is not literally meaning, oh, fine is okay, not okay at all. When someone says, oh, it's fine. Yeah, it also there's a soul in it. So yeah, we have to
Right.
understand.
So I think I get your idea that sometimes when I was talking to someone yesterday in a meeting in English, the idea came to me in Spanish first. And I was thinking, oh gosh, I don't know how to express myself in this situation in English because I've had it more times in Spanish. So sometimes each language has its, how can we say, has its moment, and we feel more comfortable expressing our emotions in one rather than the other. Depends on our experience. And as you said, sometimes depends on the point of view of a person or the culture. They don't see it in the same light. And so you can use the words, but the meaning isn't the same because of the culture and the way of looking at things. So I think it's good to know languages from a communication, which we already know, but also to take in consideration how other people react and think. I think that's good. So sometimes I'm thinking with my Spanish hat on, and sometimes I'm thinking with my English hat on. Depends what it is. And how about you, Nieves?
But for me, learning another language has teach me or helped me to understand other people's point of view. So also to be careful how sometimes I express myself or I talk about my own point of view, because what I understand sometimes as a joke, for example, for other people is offensive or you can hurt their feelings. So Hustle helps me a lot to understand and other people, to be honest. Other people, their point of view, how they express themselves, and to be careful how I'm going to express myself.
So it has taught you to improve as a person because it's opened your eyes to other aspects of people's way of life. And as you say, this could be a problem. I could make a sarcastic remark, which is okay in English, but going into Spanish, it could be very offensive. So we need to know the customs and the traditions. As you know, I live next to Morocco. I don't speak the language, but I've had to learn about the culture and traditions, so it makes it easier for when I am visiting the country. Because otherwise you can offend people. You don't have to agree with people, but you have to put yourself in their shoes. Absolutely. And accept what is their way of life, right? Yeah. So we need to be more open-minded and respectful, and not so narrow-minded. I think maybe I can say, Alan, as British people years ago, we were very narrow-minded, no? We thought that we were the kings of the mambo, no? Or something similar, that wherever we went, people should know English. Yeah. I'm not saying everybody, but people, for example, when they come to Spain, they want the same food, they want their language. They don't immerse themselves into the country that they are visiting. No. That's right. Which is a shame. No, it's a shame. Right then, Nieves, in what ways is English different from your mother tongue? And which way is it similar? So think, don't give a lot, just give a few and we'll see.
Well, for me, it's completely different. It is nothing similar.
Nothing similar, wow.
It's just the way, for example, that you read in Spain, in Spanish, you read and you speak the same way. The word is written in the same way that you say it. In English, for example, it's completely different. You say the word in a way different that you write it. So
right,
for
so
me,
the spelling is
the
different.
Spelling, yeah. For example, when you end the ending of the word here in the South, for example, for me, it's common to eat the ending of the word. And in English, you need to be careful to pronounce the word properly at the end.
And then because you can have confusion between one word and another.
One word with another one. So, and then you can say even a bad word instead of the correct one and offense the person that is listening. So for me, English to Spanish completely different, to be honest.
So I think we can say from your comments that speaking English is a lot more difficult in English than it is to speak in Spanish. Sure it is. Yes. Right? So if you learn the Spanish alphabet and the sounds of the phonetics, you will be able to read and write it quite easily, where it's the complete opposite. What about you, Annie? What do you notice about your language and English, the differences?
Yeah, at the first one, at the same like the spelling in Indonesian language, we read the word the way it's spelled, and also the grammar. The grammar is pretty different. It doesn't work in Indonesian language like in Indonesia. Like for example, like my name is, when in Indonesia I can reverse my name, my kind of, it doesn't work in Indonesia about the structure, the words, it doesn't work.
Is it the other way round?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Do you put like then, the subject in a different place, or the object? Yeah. Okay, so the word order is different.
Yeah. But in English, it's easier to recognize about because it has its own structure or its own characters in English. For example, like it has in the past, in the future, in the present, continuous of perfect continuous tense. For example, the tenses there has many tenses, but like Indonesia, it's kind of trickier to understand whether it is yesterday. But for example, like I have done it. That means it's already done, you know, kind of thing, and then still going on. For example, I have been doing this blah blah blah, and then it is already start and they're still going on. But in Indonesia, it doesn't work that way. For example, I'm going, like I'm going. It is kind of future tense, right? I will going, for example, I will and going to. But in Indonesia, we have to say like, I'm to the market tomorrow or yesterday or now. I have to put an article, you know, an
adverb of time.
Yes, for the time. So there is no specific patterns to recognize the way in English works.
Right.
It is about the grammar. And then the similarity is about in expression or kind of idiom. It is, we have kind of similarity. For example, like when in Rome, do as Romans do, for example. But in Indonesia also the same, but in different way. But the idea is still the same. In Indonesian said, when you stepping in which ground you stepping your foot, and there you hold your sky. It is kind of a bit weird, but still the same idea.
Right. So I've heard people complain that in their country they don't have the same tenses. It either doesn't exist or they don't use it the same. And then I always think you need to learn chunks of the language,
yes.
or sentences, and then look for the idea, not the translation. So what you said with the idioms, it could be something completely different. For example, you could say, I could eat a horse, I'm so hungry. But in Spanish, you could say, I could eat a llama because I'm so hungry. So the animal changes. So you cannot go directly from one language to another. You have to get idea A and find the idea in the other language, not the words, the idea. And to finish with this one, Alan, have you noticed anything in your Spanish learning?
Oh gosh.
Just one thing, maybe. What do you find most difficult about learning Spanish?
All right, okay. How would the world be different if we all spoke the same language?
1 minute, Alan. 1 minute. I asked, what is one difference that you find between learning Spanish and your English language? What is the biggest difference, or why is it so difficult to learn Spanish?
Well, in Spain, they talk things back to front.
The word order.
They say things backwards, which is completely idiotic to my mind. There we are. I mean, we say a red car, they would say car red. I mean, it's just a completely
different way. They think the same about you, Alan. They think, why do the English have it the other way around?
Absolutely, yes. Yes, so I mean, I just have to go with the flow, really. But
right, so they have a different word order, and you need to learn that. So now you can answer question 9. How would the world be different if we just spoke the same language? What do you think, everybody, if we only had one language?
Think it would make life a lot simpler for everybody. That would be my first thought, but it's never going to happen.
And
you, Annie, what do you think?
The world would be boring, monotonous, and dull. Yeah, because there is nothing different in between, and also we can't keep our secrets.
And you, Nieves, what do you think about one language?
I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. I think it could be good if we could speak the same language. Maybe we could have a better understanding between countries, I think.
Yeah.
But also it could be a little boring, I think.
Yeah.
And then, but about not the same language, but sometimes we should be better trying to understand to each other, even for different cultures. Maybe speaking different language, but to be more understanding about another culture.
Right. So I know it would be easier if we just had one language. You wouldn't have to bother to learn anything else. But it could be boring and difficult to express things in different cultures. Right, quickly to finish, because our time is running out as usual. Do you think everyone should learn a second language, Alan? Do you think it
most
should?
definitely, yes. I'm all in favour, yes.
So I think we should try harder to at least speak 2 languages.
Yes.
And you, Annie, what do you think about we should learn 2 languages?
Yes, of course, it definitely we have to. If you want to connect with worldwide people, at least their mother tongue, I mean their national language and the international language, because if they want to connect with people, worldwide people, otherwise there's no communication.
So we think we should at least speak 2 different languages, English and our own or whatever. And you, Nieves, to finish?
Yeah, definitely. A second language enriches you as a person.
Yeah, because it gives you a bigger understanding of other people. Right, Alan? We are going to ask you to read this for us if you don't mind. It's a bit difficult, but I think it's interesting. Okay, off you go, Alan.
Okay. Despite the fact that many people yet believe that with a language communication is possible, statistics show that 2/3 of the world's population are bilingual or speak more than one language. Others believe that with 2 languages, especially those ones who believe that with English the task is ended, should learn more languages. Learning languages isn't only a good benefit for you, of course. With a good knowledge of languages, you have a lot of possibilities. It's also a good benefit for us, the society. We shouldn't decline the chance to learn something new, especially it is a new second foreign language. Everybody must know that with their mother tongue or native language, they can go anywhere.
Nowhere.
That's why the European Council decided to create this day. The purpose was actually to increase the importance of language learning. And maybe this will help in the future to build up a society of bilingual people and polyglots.
Right. So that is more or less what we've been talking about today. Yeah. About the importance of learning more languages. So we have our own and at least try to learn another one. So this is the promotion of the European community to increase our knowledges in languages. So thank you guys for joining me. It was quite a difficult subject maybe for us, but we did try to promote learning of languages. Okay then, ta-ra!
Okay, bye!